Hello everyone, Lawrence Fleming here. It's hard to imagine as I sit and look at this calm river that the world is in turmoil. It's one of the reasons that I like doing this, getting out in nature. I'm looking at the leaves slowly changing. We just have a cold front going through, no moisture, just a cool front, and not cold. Today it got back up to 90 degrees. We were enjoying the 80 degrees the week before. In a couple of days I'll be out of here. I don't know where I'm going yet. God said leave it open, so I've left it open. I'm trying to figure out if I can stay at my son's address long enough to get him to the airport on Tuesday, assuming we're still here. And that's possibly why I have to leave it open. I don't know. It's possible when all this is over, we're not going to notice any difference in us or in what God's doing, but the world continues to plummet. I'm getting to where I'm so cynical with our government now. If somebody comes on and tries to say something nice, it's like, what's your agenda? You trying to distract us again? So I got to be careful with that. Pray for your leaders. There still may be some out there that can do a good job. Which way is my camera looks like I've got a little bit of something on it. I have to look at that. What have I got behind me? There's something over there that I can hear moving around. Bigger than a squirrel. I haven't seen a lot of the deer lately. Hunting season's on, so they're kind of staying low. They don't know completely this is sanctuary, especially the young ones. Well, one thing that I was trying to work up for is to have something for the next few days. If we're being raptured, what do I talk about? Just stay the course. Well, I've been saying that all along. So I can keep doing that, but got to have something more. So one of the things that I was looking at is I was doing my scripture cross-referencing. In Matthew 24, Jesus is talking about things that are coming up in the seals, in the seal judgments. You can see where he talks about the sun and the moon being darkened. And you look over in the seals and there's one that does that. So I think I'm going to try to dig into that some more. Jesus' favorite prophet of choice was Daniel. He quoted him a lot. So Daniel had a pretty good vision, but you got to watch how you read him, just like you do Revelation. He would get a little bit of a vision that goes so far into the future, and then he'd get another vision that takes him a little bit further, and then another vision. And they're not in parallel or linear or anything. They're separate. They're separate visions. But he put them all together. And that's sort of confusing because the Greeks would do that and they would all be connected linear. So they're not necessarily that way. Prophetic writing is interpretive writing. You got to understand how they saw their visions. And unfortunately, because of the chapter headings and the verse numbers, we tend to follow those as if they really are in sequence. But they're not. Like Revelation is not in sequence. Once you get past, chapter 1 is introduction, 2 and 3 are the letters to the churches, 4 and 5 are kind of a quick view of heaven, and then we get into the seals. That's where everything changes. You can know that certain things are coming, but then if you don't understand the visions, you won't understand how they relate to each other. With everybody in their prayer requests and their, people saying, I'm just hanging on. I hope that we will either be encouraged to survive however much longer we've got, or that we're raptured, one or the other, in these upcoming holidays. But remember, it's not just the trumpets. Then we have a 10-day period till the next festival or holiday, I guess I should say. So, if nothing happens, this weekend or early next week, hang in there. We've still got a little bit of time. So, be patient. Be kind to one another. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, meaning don't go off and do something you shouldn't, because it doesn't matter, we're leaving. You don't know that, and I don't either. The rapture is soon, but soon on God's time frame, not ours. It's very logical for it to be this weekend, or early next week, 25th, 6th, and 7th. Remembering that if we're looking at this from a Jewish holiday point of view, they're in a different time zone than we are. If we're daylight, they're dark, vice versa. So keep all that in your head as you're calculating time. As we keep getting closer, I keep seeing, NASA struggle to get their moon rocket to work right. It's got to be repaired again for the same problem they tried last time to fix a small leak. The Starship rockets had a good test fire, but they still aren't ready to launch yet. A long way. Things seem to have slowed down. I wonder if Elon Musk is aware of our watch. Maybe he's waiting to see if we've really got time. There's no sense in doing a whole lot of work if we're going to be out of here, because the rocket is not going to get us to heaven. Some of the irony we get to see on the way out. I think I mentioned this before, but some guy that had a Tesla missed a payment, and they locked him out of his car. Technology is a double-edged sword. All right. I think I'm going to kind of keep this one short. The next few are going to be short. I'm moving here shortly, so I just try to do a little bit of encouragement each day. And we're waiting to see what's coming. Show love to everyone. You haven't got a lot of time. Whether it's in the next week, or if you add your 10 days to go past that, it's still not a lot of time. And if we miss them all, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen in October, November, December. There's no time frame. Satan has to have everything ready. When he has everything ready, that's when he's going to move. Now, he loves to attack on Jewish holidays. And Hamas has already threatened to go to war with Israel over the Temple Mount. They know. They are lying and deceiving everybody. They know they have no claim to the Temple Mount. None whatsoever. They shouldn't even be there now. If the Jewish leaders in the past had any true God-given insight, they would never have given it up after the last war. I have a nice little deer on my path going back. I wonder how close he'll let me get. I see two. I see one in the woods. I'm going to switch this around and see if I can. Well, that one just took off. See how far I can get. I'm going to turn this around and see everyone. I had to hurry back last night because it was getting dark. They like everybody out of everything, but the time it gets dark, they even closed in the, they locked the gate, which no big deal. I had to walk around. Excuse me, I walked through a spider web. I'm getting it all off of me. I didn't get that deer last night. By the time I got to him, they took off in the brush. That's the only downside of, well, there's a few downsides, but that's one of the downsides of the filming with my phone. I can't do a telephoto. I can do a digital zoom, but then I got to hold the camera really steady, otherwise it bounces all over the place. Well, it kind of looks the same now as it did last night. This is early in the morning. The sun's not even up yet. This looks like I said before in the video, and you have to catch it at the end. It looks like a lake, not a river. I can't see any movement. Walking back to my seat that I like to sit at. Kind of a mist over it. I may catch some of this as well. Add to it. As we are getting close to Feast of Trumpets, the proper name is Yom Teruah. I didn't make the connection initially because, you know, John the Baptist is New Testament. Even though he's talked about in the Old Testament, I didn't really make the connection. That's what I'm not him by any means, but that's what I'm doing, is shouting in the wilderness, and the Hebrew word for shouting is teruah. So I hadn't made that connection until I was doing some Bible studying and found the word. So this is my claim to existence, to be shouting. I was watching Brenda Weltner, and if you don't know who she is, check her out. If you do know who she is, yeah, she's early on overzealous and predicted the rapture. I think she's got it pretty close to right. She's got her template that you can just put on any year, and I think the order of things are pretty close. And she says we're not going to be raptured on the Feast of Trumpets, but we're going to be raptured for Tabernacles, which isn't very far away. It's next month. So if the template's right, the order of things is that we should have something coming up fairly big, followed by, here comes a car in here early this morning, followed by the rapture, closely tied to it, but not directly. Again, the rapture is not tied to a Jewish feast, but it's tied to Satan's actions, and he loves to attack on Jewish feasts, so we may kill two birds with one stone. And if you're talking about the time difference between, you know, September 25th through 7th and October 10th, that's not a lot of time. Don't worry about it. And I'm curious if she's right about, and it seems logical that she's right about the 8 days that we have to wait. Because we do know that there is an 8-day waiting period in the Jewish calendar. Okay, so we'll see if that happens. Anyhow, I need to get in and get my study going on this morning before it gets too terribly crowded. We're supposed to have another full weekend, and I'm moving on Monday, so hopefully I'll be able to handle that. If you're just hanging on, I pray that you have the strength to just keep hanging on. I feel pretty confident that it's this year. And if it is, it could be the Feast of Trumpets, but I like her logic of pushing it out a week. So let's see what happens. God bless. Okay, I've got some general scriptures to look up. I've got 3 topics here I just kind of want to reference real quick. We know that if we read prophecy, we wonder whether we got it right. Well, it so happens that when we read the book of Revelation, and that's supposed to be the prophecy from Jesus to John, how do we know John got it right? Well, Jesus tells about it in Matthew. So let's take a look first at the source. And this is just one of the seals. This one's pretty easy to define. You can find everything from the other seals also in Jesus' talk, but it's not prophetic there from the point of view that it's not in the standard prophetic format. He's just talking. So let's turn to Revelation 6:12. And I looked, and he opened the 6th seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake. We're getting a lot of little ones, pretty good size, but not the great one yet. We also know when this is going to happen because we'll find that out in a bit. And the stars, let's see, the sun became black as sackcloth with hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of the heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops their late figs when it is shaken by a mighty wind. The sky receded as a scroll when it was rolled up. Every mountain and island was moved out of its place. Okay, so that's a pretty big event. So how do we know it's true? Well, let's turn to Matthew 24:29. Okay, now this is Jesus talking. This is part of his Olivet Discourse when he was asked about the end times. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, he gives you the time frame right there in clear, understood, standard Greek, so it's easy to understand. The sun will be dark and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven. The powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the Son of Man will appear in heaven. And then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with power and with great glory. So that tells us when he's coming back, when we see those signs. Now, we don't want to see those signs, not from down here. We want to be in heaven. And he's coming back. Let's see, he's coming in the clouds with power and with great glory. He's coming back with us and angels, and it's going to be the whole world's going to see. When we see about him coming back in Thessalonians about the rapture, it doesn't say the whole world will see. We meet him in the clouds. It's a different event. And again, Christ is talking about his coming, not about the rapture in Matthew 24. Okay. I had mentioned that I am trying to be a modern day John the Baptist, so to speak. And that's my name of my site here. That's the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny it, but confessed that I am not the Christ. And then they said, "Well, are you Elijah?" And he says, "I am not." "Are you a prophet?" He said, "No." So far, I'm matching. Then they said to him, "Who are you? That we may give an answer to those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" And John says, "I am the voice of one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way for the Lord. He's calling people to repent and be baptized before Jesus gets there. And he even has the privilege, this is some of the stuff that I wish I could have been a part of, but he even had the privilege of baptizing Christ. Amazing. Now, as John said, I'm not worthy to tie his or untie his bootlace. Well, I'm not worthy to tie or untie John's bootlace, but have a similar message. We're at a similar time. Christ is coming back. We have to be ready. Repent. If you're a Christian, that's an easy thing to do from the point of view that you have the Spirit to help you. If you're not a Christian, then you need to be. You need to invite Christ into your life. John 3:16. Let's go there. I want you to come with me, because it's just a few pages over. I could tell it to you, but I'd rather have you join me. Okay, so 3:16. Oh, and who's Jesus talking to? He's talking to one of the leaders, Nicodemus. He says, how can I be born again? Okay, so 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Most people stop there. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, that's in 17, but that the world might be saved through him. He who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe in him is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to the light, and his deeds may be clearly seen, that they have been done in God. Okay, so you need to accept Christ. If you're Jewish, applies to you. Jesus came to the Jews first, and they rejected him. That's when he converted Saul to Paul and sent him out to the rest of the world. I've been to temple. I've come out of that to a degree. But when I accepted Christ, I wasn't allowed back in. Satan is really good at getting people to butt heads over the stupidest things. But by doing so, disrupt the message of God. That's why if you've got something against somebody, let it go. No matter how heavy the burden that you carry is, Jesus can lift it with one finger and carry it away. Give it to him. You don't need any of the burdens of this world. Remember, this is only our stopping point for the time being, and we're about ready to go. Okay, and I did want to give you another quick verse. Turn with me to Genesis 1:14. I didn't have it marked, so let me turn there, because I know where Genesis is. 1:14. Then God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day and the night, and let them be for signs, right there, signs, and seasons, and for days and years. So we have them dividing things, but they're there also for signs. So when we talk about the Revelation 12 sign, it was put up there on purpose for us to see. And there are others, we just talk about the sun and the moon and the stars falling. They're signs. The sun and the moon having problems in the big earthquake, that's a sign God's a little upset with the people of the world. Pay attention. You still have a chance. As long as things are happening, as long as you can keep turning pages until you get to the very end. As long as you can keep turning pages, God's working on trying to convince you. Don't put it off. Believers believe we have a rapture coming up. Is it going to be on the Feast of Trumpets? Maybe a Day of Atonement? Tabernacles? Whatever it is, it's going to be this fall probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. If you make that trip, one, we will be with Jesus, which is enough of an incentive. But if that isn't good enough, you're going to miss all the horrors coming from the book of Revelation. They're not there for good people. They're there for people to grab you and shake you and say, "Why are you fighting me?" Jesus did that with Saul. Blinded him. Knocked him down. "Why are you fighting me?" Saul was being a good Jew, but he wasn't being a good follower of Christ. But of course, nobody knew how to be a follower of Christ. They were learning. And when Jesus spoke to him, he wasn't one of the disciples. He didn't follow him around. He didn't learn from him. But he did get to talk to him. I wish we could all experience that here on earth before we get to heaven. We will in heaven. But that's got to be an awesome thing for these people that, whether you're talking to a burning bush or you're looking at a pillar of fire and smoke, how can you have that? How can God do these miracles? Well, he's God, but it's still, I'm curious. I have my scientific curiosity wanting to know. It doesn't matter in the scheme of things. He's doing it. How did Jesus walk on water? It doesn't matter. He did. And Peter did too, so we can as well, if the need comes. All right. I'm going to probably do just some short inspirational videos for the next week. I'm moving. I'm dealing with my son. I've got some other issues that I'm dealing with. If you've been with me all this time, we're ready. We don't need a whole lot more other than encouragement. For those that are struggling right now and are waiting for the rapture to end that struggling, don't lose hope if it doesn't happen the first day you think it should. There's a timeline coming in, and we're not talking years, we're not talking even months really. The first festival is at the end of this month, and then we go into the next month. And we won't even get to the middle of the month, so don't worry. We will know. And things are going to start popping anyway. This earth is starting to see things. All the major earthquakes that we're seeing, the hurricanes, this one that's coming up the coast that's going to be the strongest to ever hit Canada. The strongest to ever hit Canada. You got that? Record breaking. We're seeing record breaking storms. Now, a hurricane hitting the islands, the Caribbeans, Puerto Rico, that doesn't seem like it's a special event. They get hit and destroyed and everybody's homeless again, time and time again. If you build your house on sand, that's all you're going to get. Pray for them because they need help. But that in itself is not enough to stir people. But the one that just hit Alaska, that was pretty big. Japan got hit. Destruction are coming from these current modern storms. But they're going to take a lot more to wake up the world. We know we got the pretty much Revelation 6 through 21 to get through. Somewhere along the line, it will wake up somebody you know. If they're not going with us, and you've planted the seeds correctly, they will wake up. One, because you planted the seeds. The Spirit's working on everybody. And two, you're praying for them. Should be. And I'm assuming we can still pray from heaven for people down here. We're not robots. God gives us the free will even up there to a degree. I'm not sure how all that works, but we'll be able to pray for people. We're going to be assisting Christ in managing the millennium. So how do you assist Christ? What, keeping his throne warm while he's up and about doing things? No. Besides, there's too many of us. We'd be fighting over it. No, but we're going to be doing what Jesus is doing. Jesus is our connection to God, our emissary. So we're going to be emissaries. We're going to be able to help people. It's going to be an interesting time. The first big thing coming up soon, I think, is the rapture. So be ready. Have your lamp filled. Just a nice, still river. It looks like a lake. It's hardly moving. Just watched the sun down, but I forgot to film it. So you have to imagine. So the one video was the evening. This is the morning. It's still just as calm as a lake, but it's a river. If you look closely, you can see some current, but it's really not going much. What I like is to see the fog coming up off the water. You can see the leaves starting to change. It's a gradual thing. You can see it more in the reflection. Beautiful world. I'm sure the new one will look just as good.